Alright, actually, the total amount of consumption hasn't changed. It's not that people's spending power has shifted. Of course, we can't deny that. On the one hand, there is indeed precautionary saving. Looking at the past year or two, you can see that ordinary people have saved tens of trillions. If I remember correctly, about 30 to 40 trillion yuan have been deposited in banks. This whole act of saving is definitely a precautionary move, showing that everyone is actively saving for the future to prepare for unexpected needs. Secondly, it's indeed because interest rates are going down. We know that real estate prices are also falling, and you can't really make money in the stock market either, so people don't have many places to invest. As a result, a lot of people have chosen to pay off their mortgages first. There are many people paying off their home loans. When everyone wants to save money and deposits increase, it puts a lot of pressure on the banking system. Your deposits are the bank's liabilities, and if the bank can't allocate them into effective assets, then the pressure on banks becomes enormous. So personally, I believe that in this environment where people are all increasing their savings for precautionary reasons, China's interest rates will very quickly move toward a situation where the nominal interest rate approaches zero. In fact, given our current negative real interest rate environment, I think it's very likely that China will move toward a scenario where the nominal interest rate is zero, or even negative. Secondly, in this environment, as I mentioned earlier, the challenges and pressures we face are still quite significant. We need to improve and deepen a series of reforms to ease the burden on young people and allow them to benefit more. So, in this kind of environment, we actually need to take a series of actions. As I mentioned earlier, in this kind of environment, both businesses and households are engaging in precautionary savings, working to repair the balance sheets of households and companies. That's why we've seen M1 drop very quickly this year. Last month's report data showed that M2 is no longer able to truly reflect the state of the economy or the effects of monetary policy in this era of quantitative easing. Actually, M1 is very important, and it's also been declining rapidly. What does this indicate? It shows that there really is a liquidity trap, that a liquidity trap does indeed exist. So in this context, we also need to pay attention to these leading economic indicators and understand the issues reflected behind them. That means we need to carry out a series of adaptive institutional reforms. So I think on one hand, we need to address profit concessions, especially for small and medium-sized enterprises, micro businesses, and individual entrepreneurs. What really needs to be done is to loosen restrictions, relax controls on people's livelihoods, on consumption, on the market, and on the environment. Only by loosening these restrictions can economic life possibly become more dynamic. Actually, right now, our regulations are relatively strict, and in all aspects of economic life, you can see all kinds of information about this, right? Things like retroactively investigating 30 years of taxes, and so on. A series of measures. I think these are all extreme cases, but once this kind of negative information and public opinion environment spreads, it really undermines the confidence of households and businesses. So, these two aspects really need to be improved.